Hey everyone, today we are checking out Primary Arms' SLx 1-6. Now this has got the ACSS Nova reticle. Let's jump into it. Hey, we're gonna jump right into this review, but before we do, I wanna pass something on to you. We are demonetized. That means we don't make any money from these videos, but we could use your support. Please let YouTube know that you dig our content by clicking the like and subscribe button. In exchange, we'll provide you with this cringy gun meme. Check it out. Overview, this is the Primary Arms SLx 1-6. It's a second focal plane. That means that the reticle stays the same as you increase magnification. It's going to be a 30mm tube. It has the ACSS Nova reticle, which is much improved over previous versions. Now this is a Gen 4, so we've had several iterations before this one, but this one has a lot of upgrades over previous versions. There's a lot of features on here that are really good for what we would consider a budget optic. And this one's coming in at around 340 bucks. That's not too unobtainable. It's pretty reasonable when you consider what this thing is doing for you. Start out of the back here, you've got a diopter to adjust for your vision. And that's going to be different for each shooter. You also get a throw lever, allows you to adjust the magnification. Now I've got to admit that this one is pretty stiff, but it might break in with some time. On the turrets moving forward, you've got 120 clicks of elevation there. And these are mil stadia, so you've got 120 elevation and windage, and you can see these are capped turrets. And getting into the turrets, they adjust pretty easily. You can't hear this probably, but just slight clicks. But it is tactile, you can feel it, but it's pretty easy to turn. Good thing that they're capped turrets for sure. Now on the other side over here, there are 11 brightness settings. And one of the things that Primary Arms got in their feedback on their previous versions for this optic was that the dot on the reticle was not daylight bright. And man, did they correct that. They really came out with a super bright reticle. This one is a vast improvement over previous versions. So on the adjustments for the illumination, you've got 11 settings here. And 0 is off, 1 is your lower, and 2 is probably going to be for your night vision settings. But the setting on the knob itself is pretty stiff. You can feel that, you can hear it, but there's no in-between marks, so it's either on at that setting or it's off. There's no in-betweens to stop along in between on the way. So you're either at the brightness that you want or you have to spin it down. So it's continually going to be on. But Primary Arms also has the battery cap that can be used on this to help save battery life too. So let's talk about internals. The glass is pretty clear for a budget optic. It does a really good job. One of the things I'd like to point out is it's difficult to film what you actually experience when looking through optics. It's a challenge. We've got some apparatus here that we're trying to apply to this, but what I want to communicate is that there's a nice, clear, crisp center looking through this optic. So when you magnify it out, or whether you're just looking at 1x, you have a nice clear center area where the reticle itself is very sharp and clear. But as you move out to the periphery, as you get out toward the edges, there's a tiny bit of clouding. It's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it's noticeable. You can tell that there's a slight decrease in quality as you get out toward the edge. Hey everyone, we appreciate you watching the video, but do me a favor. Head over to pewpewtactical.com and check out the article that I wrote. It's got a little more information than we can put out here in this video. So one of the things that I really appreciate about this new version is the brightness of that reticle. It is super bright. They did a really good job and really listened to the customer base who was trying to explain to them that they wanted something that's daylight bright. We're out here in the heat in Texas and the sun is out. It's very bright today. There's no cloud cover and I'm still able to pick up that red dot very easily. So another noteworthy thing to mention, when you look through a magnified optic, even if it's only 1x, there's still going to be a little bit of distortion. So as I look at my target downrange here at about 20 yards, and then I look through the optic at 1x, I see a slight bit of distortion. So the difference in that reality is just a tiny hint of magnification that actually decreases the size of the target that I'm looking at. Just a little bit. It's not bad, but again, it's something that's worth noting. Okay, so here we are at full magnification. You're able to see that there's a nice, clean, crisp picture, and right in the middle of the reticle, it's very sharp, and just a tiny bit of loss of clarity out on the extreme edge. But then again, this is a $340 optic, so it's much cheaper than the PLX, which we'll compare it with. It's got a really good value because of the quality of the glass that you're getting. There's got to be some give and take when you have a budget optic come out. This one is very much acceptable as far as the level of quality. It's just that it's noticeable when you get out on that edge that the sharpness diminishes just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to show you some footage here through the PLX 1-8. It's not really fair because this is a $1,500 optic, but by comparison, you have very good glass quality here, and you can see the clarity is nice and sharp in the middle and all the way out on the edges. You really don't lose any quality as you follow the hash marks out. It's pretty solid all the way around. All right, we're going to show the magnification here. We're going to pull it into 6x so that we can compare it fairly with the SLx. And again, you can see good quality. Even at magnification, the clarity is clear through the entire sight picture. And just as a means of comparison, you can see that this is very clear. But again, this is a much more expensive optic. So the difference is negligible in the two, but the price is substantially different. The 1-6 SLx, especially the Gen 4, is a very good value for that reason. Okay, so by comparison, the PLX has a different reticle, but you can see the brightness here as we turn that on. And with this, it's bright, got that nice horseshoe on there, but it's not as bright, it's not stunningly bright as the new SLx ACSS Nova. So we're out at 100 yards shooting prone here. We're just going to demonstrate what the zoom looks like and that sight picture at distance. Again, we're shooting torso-sized steel at 100 yards. And I'm going to go ahead and activate the illumination there. And you can see it's stunningly bright. Even with that orangish red target, it's very easy to distinguish. We'll take a couple of shots here. Good clarity. The reticle itself is very clean. You've got BDC built in for your elevation, and then your stadia, your hash marks left and right on the horizontal plane for moving targets. Otherwise, it's pretty clean. So the eye relief on the SLx 1-6 is pretty good. It's listed on the stats as being at 4 inches, and it feels dead on. When you look at it without magnification, fairly generous. As long as I'm basically established with cheek weld, I can tip my head just a little bit. Eyebox is really good. Of course, when I magnify, it gets a little tighter, and I can only move just a little bit before I start to see intrusion of scope shadow. So overall, very good at 4 inches, pretty solid. Hey, my eyes are up here. Before we get into our final thoughts, we'd like to remind you one more time, please hit the like and subscribe button. We appreciate it. Final thoughts on the SLx 1-6, and this again is the ACSS Nova reticle. Really good value for the money. 340 bucks. With that, you're getting a good clarity scope with top magnification of 6x and that super bright red dot. It is so bright that you can literally pick it up in full sun on a red target. That's kind of tough to beat. So overall, fairly compact size. The magnification is a little bit stiff. I'm not sure if that's going to loosen up over time, but again, it's also something that you don't want it to be able to be brushed by something and just casually dial in some magnification. The cap turrets are easy to adjust and something that you would expect at this price point. But you know, again, it's a good value at the price. So again, this has been the SLx 1-6 LPVO by Primary Arms, and this is the 4th gen with the ACSS Nova reticle. Thank you for watching.